There we go. Yeah, that works. Whew. Sorry, I was doing some remodeling. Hey everybody, I'm Cortez, and I'm a critic, and welcome back. We're continuing our NFL 2026 draft recap, and we are currently in the AFC East, and we are in Miami to talk about the Dolphins. As you can see, I was also helping with a little bit of remodeling myself, because the Dolphins, the Miami, the Dolphins, the team that somehow have a soft spot because I live in Florida, have 13 new players! They did a full renovation, and I'm not mad at them. I think they literally says, enough of this. We are fixing everything. And they did, at least on paper. From the Malik Willis acquisition, the quarterback, they said, we are not wasting any more time. We are doing this now. And well, this draft class basically says, screw it. We are getting everything and anything that we can get our hands on. We are rebuilding this team now. And if there's any consolation for this whole thing, at least it gives the view of you are doing something. Better than most teams, I would say, Tampa, that you actually are doing something to fix the team. And to me, as a non-Dolphin fan, but I respect the Dolphin because, hey, we are neighbors. Hey, Miami. Hey, Jacksonville. Forget about it. You guys are doing something, and you guys are in a much more difficult position than the Jaguars or the Bucks in the lovely state of Florida. You have 13 picks. Oh boy. Let's talk about the Miami Dolphins. All right. Let's not waste time with a lot of picks. 13. Let's not make this video an hour. So, with the 12th overall pick in the 2026 NFL Draft, the Miami Dolphins selected Caden Proctor, offensive tackle, Alabama. When you get a new quarterback, you want to protect him. Proctor was one of those prospects that wasn't as high in need, but it's kind of like, but why not? He is the third best offensive tackle. He is top 20 overall. His grade's an 88. Why would you not invest in that? Proctor, they currently have him as the interior offensive line, and right now, according to ESPN.com, Miami Dolphins mock depth chart, he is the only gentleman assigned with the left guard position. Now, Proctor was one of those specialists I heard that he had the upside of versatility. That was going to be his big, Swiss Army knife thing. Like, he could be a tackle, but if you need him to move somewhere else, he could. He has that intangibles. He's incredibly quick for his size. He has good balance. There's too many benefits for this guy that even may not need to have him right away. Why not? I mean, Miami has a lot of needs, and they did address them all eventually. But there's a combination of, like, you don't need an offensive lineman, but good offensive linemen are so rare. And when you get a home run, especially as a draft, you just feel like, look what the Bucks did. Look at the Lions do with their offensive linemen when they drafted them and how valuable they are. Not only are they going to use them in their rookie contracts, but they are now with your team, and you have a foundation for the next 10, maybe even longer for your offensive lineman. Just hopefully everything else works out. But if you're able to address the offensive lineman, you can address the bigger problems early. To me, that to me is the big one. Then, still in the first round, with the 27th overall pick in the 2026 NFL Draft, the Miami Dolphins selected Chris Johnson, corner, San Diego State. This was another gentleman that I wonder if because of his level of competition that he kind of like fell through the cracks. But then again, some of our greatest players came from San Diego State, so not criticizing too much there. But Miami needed, basically, in my opinion, every position except for quarterback needed at least, and maybe running backs too, needed at least one new young man, one new rookie, one new player that could develop into a veteran star or could help us right away or not. But everybody's going to get a brand new young man to train, to coach, to develop. And Chris Johnson was probably a little bit more demand than others because I would say the AFC is a heavily offensive streak of teams. And if Miami has any hope to compete, you need to be able to go against those wide receivers of the Ravens, the Bengals, the Jaguars, the Chiefs, the Broncos, the Raiders, the Patriots now. You're probably going to need to find some way to handle those guys. And Chris Johnson is the perfect attribute for the Dolphins. I thought maybe it might go linebacker, but funny enough, they addressed that literally the next pick, and I hate him for it. I love him, but I hate him for it. So getting Chris Johnson to me was appropriate, and I feel like they got a steal because I don't know. He's 6th in his position, top 40, 85 grade. Don't know. Don't know why they didn't think much of him, but he did, and I feel like he'll be a fantastic splash. Do they currently have him already? Yep. Starting left corner already. They have him projected anyway, so we'll see what he does. And then the pick that we Buccaneer fans hated because the Dolphins literally got him right before us. So in the second round, with a 43rd overall pick in the 2026 NFL Draft, the Miami Dolphins select Jacob Rodriguez, linebacker, Texas Tech. This guy was in almost every potential mock draft with the Buccaneers. Everywhere, from ESPN to local Tampa Bay Times. Rodriguez was always viewed as, with the Bucs, if Mezendor, if some of the Buccaneers players were not there, would they say, screw it, get Rodriguez because he's too viable not today because we feel like he won't be available in the second round or by the time we pick up in the second round. And Miami was like, mine. The Bucs picked Trotter at 46. We were 3 picks away from potentially getting this young man. And the funny thing is, he still came to Florida. He just went past us and went further south. I feel like Jacob is one of those linebackers that he may not have. He has this. The intelligence, the understanding, the fundamentals. I would love him to be an Urlacher. I would love him to be a Luke Kuechly, but I don't think he is. I feel like he might have the intelligence of Luke Kuechly. I believe that. I believe Rodriguez is a lot smarter. Trying to have a comparison of a linebacker that had a good intelligence and didn't rely too much on his, brute strength. I feel like Rodriguez is a steal for the Dolphins. I feel like it is. And with Jordan Brooks, who had a phenomenal year last year, and there were a lot of talks that he might go somewhere else, and some even to Tampa, but he didn't. And now you have these two very unique linebackers that seem to complement each other very well. I feel like Rodriguez is a steal for the Dolphins, and I think a lot of it's because he is a smart man for a linebacker. Like I said, I believe he has the same intelligence of a Luke Kuechly did when he came out of Boston College as a linebacker. May not have the same tenacity as Luke Kuechly, but I feel like he has this, and that's going to last a lot longer. He's able to read and dissect without using excessive energies and excessive movement to execute the play. So to me, Rodriguez is a steal for the Dolphins, and I hate you for it. But good for you. Then we go to the third round with the 75th overall pick in the 2026 NFL Draft. the Miami Dolphins selected Caleb Douglas, wide receiver, Texas Tech. At one point, we had Waddle and Tyreek Hill. Now we have neither. Our wide receiver pool is not the strongest. Not the strongest, guys. I'm sorry. I hate to be honest with you. It's probably your weakest. Malik Washington, Jalen Tolbert, Tutu Atwell. Even your tight end pool seems kind of... So, not really the greatest of help our young quarterback we got in Malik, develop with not the best pool, but hey, maybe he pulls a Drake May and he makes lemonade out of very small lemons. That's all you can hope for. The Caleb Douglas acquisition, to me, I believe he's probably one of their biggest wide receiver, 6'3", 206. Not the he's the 26th ranked wide receiver. Yeah. So, but everyone else on the receiving pool is not that high either, so maybe Caleb could, just by pure athleticism, can probably get more playing time. The quicker Caleb and Malik develop chemistry, the quicker he gets involved. And I feel like for the Dolphins' passing attack, the sooner the better. If Douglas is going to be that, wide receiver, okay, I'm not going to put a Puka Nakua level here, but if he can do something like that, or Cooper Kupp, a late round pick, third mid-round pick, sorry, not late round, but mid-round pick, and does something, I'm very optimistic because the Dolphins receiving pool is not as heavy with top-tier wide receivers. So to me, Caleb could be your number one wide receiver, or maybe even your leading receiver, receptions or yard by the end of the year, and I will not be surprised. Just saying, keep an eye on that one. Then, still in the third round, with the 87th overall pick in the 2026 NFL Draft, the Miami Dolphins selected Will Camarke, tight end, Ohio State. Now, this one, I wanted Tampa to get him. But Miami, once again, happened to wiretap the Buccaneers organization and took two players that were heavily insinuated to be the Buccaneers' future draft picks. We got our tight end in the 6th round anyway, so it wasn't a big loss for us, I guess. But I feel like, very much like Douglas, Will could be the tight end that eventually gets a starting job by week 6, week 8. I believe that. I believe he will get the tight end pool for the Dolphins. I mean, you got Greg Dulcich, who is from Denver, who was 26 years old. He's a third-round pick in 2022 by the Broncos. And then you got Will, who is already the backup. I do not be surprised if Will and Douglas become the new receiving threat for Malik Willis. And then, of course, you got Devon in your rushing attack. So, who knows? Maybe the Miami Dolphins' new receiving threat is going to be led by two young men from this draft class, in Douglas and Will. So, it's a case of no one else on the current roster is clearly the guy, except for just seniority only. And that's not seniority on the team, just seniority as of, I've played in the league at least 2 or 3 years more than you. And in some cases, I played on 2 or 3 teams more than you. So, but do not be surprised if Caleb and William become the new favorite of Miami this year. And we're not done. Still in the 3rd round, with the 94th overall pick in the 2026 NFL Draft, the Miami Dolphins selected Chris Bell, wide receiver, Louisville. Chris Bell, take a look at you here, my dude. 6'1", 222. A little bit thicker than probably most people expect for a 6'1" wide receiver. That's what I thought. ACL injury. So that is something that could be a reason why his draft stock dropped a little bit. So he'll need some time to develop, some time to get back to 100% form, but that's the benefit of sports medicine. We can make players a lot healthier and a lot faster with no repercussions or consequences, or, heaven forbid, re aggravate injuries. At least we hope. So, Chris Bell, Dolphin fans might be more excited. I'm still more excited about the first two players they got in wide receiver and the tight end. But to me, if Chris Bell develops this year, better. But if he doesn't, I don't feel like there's a pressure. I don't feel like there's a desperate need for pressure. I feel like a lot of the Dolphins players, whether it's free agency or the draft, still need time to adapt, and we'll see how quickly they do it. But to me, Chris Bell to me seems like if he thrives, fantastic. If he doesn't, don't sweat it. I feel like for sure he'll be better the next cycle. In the fourth round, with the 130th overall pick in the 2026 NFL Draft, the Miami Dolphins selected Trey Moore, linebacker, Texas. I'm going to say he is the... This guy feels like the boomer bust category. If he thrives well, fantastic. If he doesn't, well, we were very hoping for the upside. Initial burst, free lane, wins with more agility than quickness than strength. So he is quick to the edge, quick to the side, shoot the gap, make a play. But if he happens to get manhandled by a much quicker or much bigger, stronger gentleman, he's out of the way. So for their sake, I'm sure they probably want Trey Moore to be, please tell me the boom is greater than the bust. Because this just feels a little bit like you're hoping his intangibles with a right coaching and a right development could make him better. But if not, well, I'm not going to say it's a love loss. I'm going to use a draft pick on this guy. But I feel like the optimism and the hopefulness is higher than what if he doesn't develop well? What if he gets beaten by the bigger men on the side of the ball? We'll see what Moore can do. But to me, I feel like that's where they're probably evaluating him in. The upside potential is greater than what if he sucks. And there's 13 players. I got to keep checking my chart. All right, 8 picks later, still in the fourth round, with the 138th overall pick in the 2026 NFL Draft, the Miami Dolphins selected Kyler Lewis, linebacker, Pittsburgh. Now, Kyler Lewis, I keep thinking, is he a safety became linebacker? Or is he like one of those like linebacker that has the coverage ability of a safety? Because he was a name that was on the Buccaneers chart, and I was wondering, is he a safety or is he a linebacker? Is he a linebacker or is he a safety? I keep hearing that. He's 6'2", 220, so it sounds like he's a safety. I mean, very rarely do you see a linebacker be just barely 220 in the NFL. More than likely, he's probably a safety that happened to play linebacker, kind of like what Mark Barron did before. I'm looking over his functionality. Man, it even says here, he's built like a safety. So we'll see where the Dolphins have him. He is top 10 in his position. 90th over 89. Hey, 89th overall ranking and a 75 grade. So my guess is his intangibles are great. They just don't know where to put him. And maybe that's the thing. There's an identity crisis for this young man's place. And for the Dolphins' sake, they currently have Lewis as the strong side linebacker behind Trey Moore and Willie Gay Jr. So we'll see. I can probably safely say that he probably has a spot on special teams because of his athleticism. So maybe the Dolphins will figure out later. But I don't know. Like I said, he's 6'2", 220. That sounds like a safety. But he's labeled as a linebacker. Doesn't mean he can't play linebacker. Just, sometimes we go by the numbers more than what we see on the film. But he was a player that the Bucs were considering himself too. So I learned a lot about him from the reports I read and the broadcasts that talked about it. Because then safety is the next pick in the 5th round with the 158th overall pick in the 2026 NFL Draft. The Miami Dolphins selected Michael Taft, safety, Texas. He's 5'11", 190. He's a safety. He's, what, 30 pounds lighter and a couple inches shorter. 15 best man. Now, Michael is a walk-on. And he played at Texas. All-American honors for the past 2 seasons. This, I will give him the Rudy badge. His heart surpassed his physical looks. He played at Texas. All-American honors. If that does not count for something for a walk-on to go to Texas, hook 'em horns. I don't know what. I mean, not to criticize, but if he went to Texas State, maybe not as impressive. But he went to Texas, who are currently a part of the SEC. So you got Texas and SEC, and this young man walked on and succeeded in it. Can't help but feel like that maybe this is a diamond that the Dolphins happen to find and go, ooh, shiny. Now, I believe he will make his mark on special teams. Now, would they have him at free safety behind Zane Anderson and Lonnie Johnson Jr.? So, but I really believe he will make his mark on special teams, and then we'll see as his career goes. But I believe very much like Lewis, he's too valuable not to keep, and we all know that he has a spot on special teams, and then we'll develop him later. But Lewis and Michael have a chance in preseason to probably get a lot more playing time in their respective positions, and then we'll see how they handle, an actual NFL live game, even though they'll probably be going against a bunch of players roughly the same level of experience and talent as they are, regardless if they're veterans or not. So I'm looking forward to both Kyle and Michael. The opportunity is there, and I'm really rooting for them because of the physical, L's they got, saying, oh, you're too short, you're too thin, I'm like, yeah, but they still got drafted. They still happen to make it to the NFL. Let's see what they can do next. No, we're not done yet. 13 picks, Miami. Wow, why this to me? Still in the 5th round with the 177th overall pick in the 2026 NFL Draft. The Miami Dolphins selected Kevin Coleman Jr., wide receiver, Mizzou. I've noticed that a lot of wide receivers getting drafted later that happen to be under 6 foot. It just feels coincidentally, a lot of the better wide receivers I see sometimes are above 6'1", 6'2", 6'3". But the more receivers I see later, they happen to be either 6 foot or under. Now, I've always associated small wide receivers with the stereotypical of being quick, good in space, and probably unable to take a vicious hit, though. But we're willing to go in the middle because they want to prove that they're Mighty Mouse and not mice. Kevin Coleman Jr., 5'10", 179. I've seen high school seniors heavier than him. Doesn't have the elite top speed. He lacks size. This makes him a slot receiver at the next level. Brings value as a return man, and maybe that is where they're going to have him. I see him projected to be behind Malik Washington for the punt return. So we'll just see how preseason goes, but I feel like that is more than likely his spot of desire right now. Is if you can return the ball, you have a roster spot. The rest is up to you. Like I said, the receiving pool is very weak. A bunch of journeymen and rookies and unproven starters yet. So he might have a chance to make it, but if he can thrive in the return game, he's guaranteed a spot, and I feel like that is where he was ideal evaluation was for. Let's get him to return balls. 13 picks. 180, 5th round. With the 180th overall pick in the 2026 NFL Draft, the Miami Dolphins selected Sidun Traore, tight end, Mississippi State. Another tight end. No, he wasn't the one Bucks were considering. It says here in his first line of evaluation, he is his position as a blocker. which he has athleticism to receive, but I feel like they have him mainly as a good blocker with ability to catch, not a receiver that can block in a way. And maybe that's what they're looking for in this situation. A good hand versatility, but someone that can clearly block on the edge if they need to, especially when you have a good running back in Devon. So I'm looking at him and potentially looking at him as this guy is probably has, you know, more desire to be an extra blocker than a receiving threat, but that doesn't mean he can come out and catch the ball on play action or strategic plays of, rollouts. We'll see what we can do, but I do believe that Will, the other tight end they drafted at Ohio State earlier this draft, is probably meant to be the guy. Then, 6th round. With the 200th overall pick in the 2026 NFL Draft, the Miami Dolphins selected DJ Campbell, offensive guard, Texas. When I think of offensive line interior, I always think about running the ball, protecting between the tackles, protect the blitz coming, what have you. But lately I've seen that the guard are getting a little more appreciation because some of these defensive tackles are able to break through the lesser interior offensive linemen and sack the quarterback, or at least just pressure them a lot more aggressively and a lot faster than their edge counterparts. So DJ coming in here, is he projected to start? Probably not. Like I said, Proctor is the only one labeled as the left guard. There's no backups. There's no third string. There is no one behind him as of this time. Now, DJ is currently being viewed as the third string right guard. Could that change? Probably. But I feel like with Proctor being the left guard, I think they're saying we have our left guard solidified in the first pick. The rest we'll figure out backup situations. But right now, Proctor is our guy, pending devastating circumstances to change otherwise. But Proctor is the guy, and we will adjust accordingly as training camp begins and, of course, preseason evaluates us further. So to me, DJ is meant for development and for the future, and we'll see where he goes. Maybe he becomes Proctor's backup at the left guard when the season starts. We'll see. Then the last pick, number 13th pick for the Dolphins. In the 7th round, with a 238th overall pick in the 2026 NFL Draft, the Miami Dolphins selected Max Lului, edge, Iowa. I mispronounced that name probably. Max Louis, Max, Iowa, 6'6", 258. I'm getting Anthony Nelson vibes. Anthony Nelson was this 6'7" giant out of Iowa who the Bucs picked up. Never became the guy, but he has made enough plays that he's worth valuable as a rotation substitute player. So, seeing a guy at 6'6", 258, I can't help but feel like another tall, lanky white guy from Iowa who played edge there, and I'm thinking, yes, the potentials is there. The opportunity is there. You guys are kind of needing some help. Now, you run a 4-3 defense. A lot of your Phillips and Chubb are gone. So Robinson is basically your only remaining defensive player that was part of that three-headed monster we thought you guys were going to have. And Max is currently viewed as the third stringer, and I'm really, really hoping that his intangibles develop quickly and he gets involved in the rotation for the Dolphins. Because I believe Iowa Hawkeyes college football have always to me been their defense is solid, their quarterback sucks, the offense cannot do enough, but the Iowa defense does everything in its power to keep the game close, even against much superior offensive teams in like the Ohio States or the Wisconsins or the Michigans or Michigan States. But that Iowa defense, season in, season out, always seems to be the reason why they have any chance. But the Iowa offense, for whatever happens, the quarterback play have always been the weakest point. Now, they are, to my opinion, one of the tight end used. Look at Iowa's tight ends and see how many of them are Pro Bowlers and some even Hall of Famers, and some of them even have Super Bowl rings from Iowa. Iowa's offensive running backs, offensive line, you got some star players there. Tristan Wirfs for the Buccaneers, an Iowa guy. The quarterback play, I think the best quarterback they had was probably Brad Banks, who he disappeared. He was a Heisman Trophy candidate. For you Iowa fans that know that. So to me, I'm trusting the pedigree of Iowa's defensive pool of defensive players that he will do something for Miami. The question is, how soon can he do it? I feel like there's promise. And that is that. The player I'm most excited about, Jacob Rodriguez. I'm a little bitter that the Bucs didn't get him. 3 picks before us. But I'm telling you, he's smart. For a guy that literally is a position that involves bashing and bashing and bashing, he's smart. He's smart. I am very optimistic by him that he'll get a C on his chest sooner than most linebackers in that position. Like I said, Luke Kuechly intelligence. I am telling you, that's what I see. Maybe not the same tenacity as Luke Kuechly, but definitely the intelligence of a Luke Kuechly. Grade for the Dolphins, better. So much better. I can't give anything more than that. Your better is so high that if you happen to have a top 10 pick in next year's draft, you have failed. Miami's, from the free agencies, without the receiving pool, everything else just feels like this team is taking this offseason probably the most serious they have had in quite some time. I feel more optimistic than the year they got Tyreek Hill, Waddle, and Tua on the same team. This team feels more optimistic. I feel exciting. Could they threaten the Patriots and the Bills? Yes, they have done it before, multiple times, even with lesser players. My thought for the Dolphins is you gotta be competitive by December, and we'll see when I do my preview if I see that based on the training camps and preseason. So right now, based on your draft class, is such a high better that I cannot say contender because you have nothing to show me this is contenders. But if you guys make the playoffs with a 10-7 record, I will not be surprised. I feel like this rookie class is filled with a lot of potential. Just got to find out where to put them, and a lot of diamonds in the rough here. So that's the Dolphins. Oh, so many players. We'll conclude the AFC East by going to New York. We're talking about the Jets, Jets. Why? Because we have to. But hey, maybe they finally got their act together too. Or not, they're the Jets. But that's for the later. But until next time, I'm Cortez, and I'm a critic. Thank you so very much for watching.